All right, Bulls and Bears, my name is JJ. You're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust. Back with another dose BX4 news. Bull to the bust. Let's go ahead and get right into it here. A lot of news to get caught up on. Wildfires emerging here again in California. Egg shortages here in California because of an outbreak. We're talking about close to $9 now for a lot of eggs. I think it's at the minimum about $8. We're going to get into that. Investing, what's happening with Honda and electric vehicles. A lot of layoffs, right? And more. One more big story. I wondered, New York congestion pricing. Let's go ahead and start right there. This congestion pricing thing that's happening in New York where people have to pay a fee just to enter a certain area of New York City. Well, people are already getting in trouble because they're trying to get around it. That should show you how desperate people are just to save a few dollars. I mean, what is it, $9 for most vehicles? Larger trucks have to pay more. Motorcycles like $4. Well, there's a report out now. People are already getting flagged because they're tracing their license plates in their cars and they're putting tape and stuff over their vehicles. Let's play a clip here and let's talk about this.
Announcing now a crackdown on drivers who try to sneak past paying the new toll in Manhattan's business district below 60th Street. In less than 3 days since the pricing plan began, police say they've already issued summonses to drivers who are disguising license plates to get out of paying the tolls. Eyewitness News reporter Lindsay Tuckman live at Columbus Circle with more on the crackdown. Lindsay.
David, look, it's too early to tell if congestion pricing has actually made any impact on traffic, but what it will quickly make an impact on is your wallet. It does appear that the drivers, many of them, like the ones behind me here going towards Columbus Circle, are taking it all in stride.
Yeah, $9 a day doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're going there every day, $45 a week, that's almost another car payment at the end of the month.
But some drivers are taking a more illicit approach.
Well, maybe a car payment 5 years ago. I don't know about today.
Day 3 of congestion pricing, and city officials say attempts are legally evade the toll. We watched cops pull over a driver Tuesday morning for what appears to be a covered license plate after passing under the gantries at Columbus Circle.
Just let them go. They let all the shoplifters go. Let the license plate scammers go too.
We got to do everything possible to...
It's the mayor talking about we got to do everything possible to crack down on these people.
That obstructs the license plate, including dirt, rust, or any sort of covering that distorts their...
You can't even have dirt on your license plate. You're going to get a ticket for having dirt or rust.
Visibility. Police released these photos of...
Because you're trying to hide from the camera. The cameras are scamming. Yeah, scamming. I meant to say scanning with two N's, but scamming with two M's. Mary.
Cars that have already
Correct.
received tickets with partially obscured plates as they crossed 60th Street. Many New Yorkers say the congestion fee may be inconvenient, even...
I guess if I got pulled over and trying to hide my license plate, I would say somebody painted my license plate. They framed me.
exorbitant.
It wasn't
but
me.
breaking the law is a step too far.
I think that they can find somebody, find ways around it without doing it illegally. That's what I've been seeing a lot on social media. They've been trying to find ways to go around 60th Street, below 60th Street without having to pay the toll. But covering up your license.
Now, what about Uber drivers, taxis? What if they go in the city, out of the city, taking people in and out? Do they pay it every time? I mean, this seems too crazy to even try to keep up with. Maybe it's just once a day. Like, what if you are in and out of the city, some sort of delivery driver, whatever, taxi driver? I'm sure UPS and the delivery companies and Amazon, they'll all get a free pass.
Plate is illegal.
But some already frustrated drivers joke that they understand the urge.
Knock yourself out. Go for it.
Well, the NYPD did release data from what they're calling today's congestion zone enforcement operation. 82 drivers were issued summonses, including 29 for improperly covered plates. 17 cars were seized for suspended registrations and other violations, and 2 people were even arrested, one of them for criminal possession.
2 arrests, so they're using this license plate scanning and this fee to be more invasive in impounding cars and arresting people.
Of a forged license plate. All of those, of course, more costly than a $9 toll.
Just pay the $9, folks. Just pay the $9 toll. Folks, this is, I mean, if you don't live in New York City, you may not care, but how many other cities is this going to end up going to? Or is it going to be such a big disaster and cause such an outrage they're going to have to get rid of it? I already see a lot of problems with that congestion pricing. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments. All right, on to some other news, folks. Inflation, the cost of living, it's walloping people. And we see record evictions happening in many different states across the U.S. Here's just one report. Washington sees record eviction filings in 2024, not just an isolated incident. What do we tell you right here in this channel? If they take away the protections, remember the eviction protections, some cities just got rid of them like less than a year ago. And we said once these protections are gone, you're going to see just spiking evictions again, because no one's actually fixing the underlying problem. No one's fixing the cost of living. You can't just put a Band-Aid on it forever and have forgiveness programs and for housing down payment assistance programs and debt forgiveness. Now they're not counting medical debt on credit reports and student loan forgiveness ongoing, and it's just more and more and more. But nobody's talking about fixing the underlying issue, which is the cost of all these things in the first place, the cost of living in general, rents included, but record evictions in Washington, folks. And there's other states too. This is just an article that just happened to come up just here in the last couple of days. Seattle, evictions are plaguing Washington State, by the way, not DC. Excuse me. Evictions are plaguing people up and down the state. New data from the University of California, Berkeley. Eviction Research Network has found Washington a record number of evictions. Eviction is a tragedy, and it's something no one, neither the landlord or the tenant, wants to pursue. Well, the landlord maybe. Remember, they were evicting people to try to get the state to pay for certain types of residents, and they were evicting people or telling them to get out for repairs, and then they never let them back in. You remember that story? We talked about that. Was that earlier, maybe middle of last year sometime. Anyways, it's getting worse, folks. And we told her this was going to happen. I was called doom and gloom. I was called the fear mongerer. But how many things have we talked about that actually are happening? Evictions are getting worse. They're not going to get better. It's not going to decline. It may get worse at a slower pace, kind of like inflation and the cost of living. It's getting worse, just at a slower pace than before. When you look at the 8, 9, 10% inflation that we had a couple years ago, which was the phony number, the official / phony number, the real number, even during those times, was, I think, closer to 15, even 20%. Look at the price of eggs, folks. What did we tell you? We told you the price of eggs is going to be more bird flu illnesses, sicknesses, and it's really hitting here in California. Take a look at this. All right, if you're in California and you've been grocery shopping, you already know. I don't have to tell you. Other parts of the country as well, but especially here in California. Look at this. Egg prices surged to nearly $9. This flu outbreak. Egg prices are skyrocketing. The state where price of eggs has increased to a whopping $10, in some areas. And I think companies, what they do, and businesses alike, even grocery stores, I think they use this as an excuse to jack the prices up even more. Remember the car pricing? We saw the profit margins actually increase during the time when there were shortages because of the production slowdown, supply chain issues, and everything else. Well, we found that the profit margins were actually increasing during those times. So they use these events or situations as an excuse to jump the prices up even more. And then it's justified because they could say, look, there was a big bird illness outbreak and now the prices are going up. So if it weren't for the greedflation, many people would say that these prices would still be somewhat normal, not completely normal, but somewhat normal. But what are you seeing in your area? If you're not in California, are you seeing $5 eggs? So think about this, $9 eggs. If it was 50 cents an egg for a dozen, you'd be looking at $6. So it's over 50 cents an egg now in California. If it gets up to $12, that'll be $12 a dozen. If a dollar per egg is what I meant to say. If it's a dollar per egg, you're talking $12 per dozen. We're not far from there, coming up on $9. Is it going to be a dollar per egg here in California? Pretty scary. And with $8, $9 per dozen egg, I mean, you're very likely to see record evictions here in California pretty soon with things like this. Not just the eggs, but everything else combined. New York, what are these people going to do in New York? There's a reason people are trying to cover up their license plates, and that's because they don't want to pay the $9. Unlike what some people think, people don't have endless amounts of money. They can borrow money, but it's borrowed money, and people know at the end of the day they're going to have either pay it back or file bankruptcy, and bankruptcy is a big mess. You don't want to do that, but it is a last resort, kind of a rescue that's there. Without that, I think we would see a pretty big pullback in spending, because if people didn't have that bankruptcy rescue at the end of the day, I think we would see the cost of living come down dramatically, because people would really pull back on the spending if they knew that lifeline wasn't there, the debt erasure, if you will, of a bankruptcy. Let's talk about Zuckerberg. Bloomberg is talking about Mark Zuckerberg wearing a am I reading this right? Almost $1 million for a watch. $900,000 watch to announce the end of fact-checking over at Facebook and his platform Meta. Here's the watch. Is that an ugly watch? $1 million for this thing? That's one of the ugliest watches I've ever seen. But you're just showing off now. You're wearing a $900,000 watch. By the way, ending the fact-checking. You made an announcement there's going to be no more fact-checkers over at the platform. I always wondered about that. I wonder who checks the fact-checkers, right? A lot of the stuff we heard about over the past few years was put down as the gospel, the truth, trust the experts, remember that? And then comes out later, a lot of that stuff was false. And yet people got in trouble for saying their opposite opinions because they put it down as disinfo, misinfo. But it turned out that the people that got in trouble for saying certain things against the experts were right. So the end of fact-checking over there at Facebook, that's going to be pretty interesting to see how that goes. Look what people are getting paid to do, folks. This is a real article out of the Independent here. Researchers finally solved the mystery of flying dinosaurs. Researchers. People are spending time researching what dinosaurs did, millions of years ago? People are getting paid. These people are not doing this for free. Somebody's paying these people to research the mystery of flying dinosaurs. And that's just one of many different things that I think we can live without. Do you care? Do you wake up in the morning worried about what happened with the dinosaurs? Does that affect you? Maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you would love to see more of this type of research, but the pterosaurs were able to fly thanks to large sail-like veins at the ends of their tails. Researchers have discovered with the help of the new laser technology, a team led by paleontologists at the University of Edinburgh discovered it was down to the lattice-like veins attached to the tips of the creature's long tails. Folks, I'm not just reading this to be silly. I'm reading this because all this detail, all this research that they may be right about, who knows if they're right? You can't prove if they're right, so you just have to believe them. Oh, trust the researchers, right? Kind of like trust the experts. People are getting paid to do this type of stuff, and who's paying for it, right? You're paying for it, I'm paying for it. Imagine if we can get rid of all these things. Will the government efficiency come in and the new administration come in and get rid of a lot of this wasteful spending? I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked if they actually help the average person. I think it's going to be more corporate tax cuts, and they're going to tell us, yeah, look at these tax cuts and record job growth, and it's going to be fueled by more easy money. Remember, he wants to drop rates. They want to have more deregulation of the banks. The banks are already deregulated. They want to deregulate the banks even more, folks. That's going to be inflationary. Again, we'll have to see how it plays out. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see how it plays out. Look at what Honda is up to. Electric vehicles are here to stay, apparently. Honda just revealed 2 new O Series EVs to be produced in Ohio. Take a look at these, actually. Very interesting. Kind of looks like the Cybertruck, doesn't it? Well, from the side it does. Very interesting. 2 SUVs. Okay, electric vehicles. One's an SUV. The Honda O Saloon and the Honda O SUV. These are the prototypes. Pretty cool looking, pretty interesting. I know the electric vehicle thing is a kind of a divisive thing. Some people love them. Some people think they're a complete waste of time and a joke. But I know some people that are actually doing pretty well with their EVs. They've really drastically cut down on their fuel bill. And the ones that I know that do the best have solar panels, and they can use that to help charge their vehicle at home. The ones that don't charge it at home, I've been hearing it's very inconvenient to find a charger, and sometimes the chargers are full and it takes a long time, so you kind of have to schedule your life around charging your vehicle is what I've been hearing. But if you have an electric vehicle, please let me know. Thumbs up or thumbs down with your experience in electric vehicles. Please let me know down in comments, and I'll be checking your comments out on this. Here's something right here. Treasury yields jump after economic data points to sticky inflation. Here we go again. Sticky inflation. We heard that for the past few years. Well, the stickiness isn't wearing off, folks. All right, it's not like an old piece of duct tape where eventually it's going to fall off. The stickiness wears off. With inflation, it's not the old piece of duct tape, folks. The stickiness is not wearing off with this inflation. Look at the $9 eggs. Look at everything else. The people in New York, again, back to that. People in New York, they're not seeing cost of living going down. They're getting new fees now just for driving their vehicle into the city. I know I'm dwelling on that a little bit, but to me, that just blows my mind. Washington Post laying off 4% of its workforce. WaPo, people. So even with all the money Jeff Bezos has, see the ones that still own it? Yeah, he's the one that still owns it. And 4% of the workforce gone. The company said on Tuesday the newspaper is struggling to stem millions of dollars in annual losses. The cuts will affect fewer than 100 people across the Post businesses. Well, 4%. That's a lot of people, though. But I think we're gonna see more announcements probably before the end of the year out of not just Washington Post, but a lot of these online news platforms. People don't want to pay for their news, folks. You see these ads popping up, and people don't want to pay for their news, or not just the ads, but the subscription. Some of these places they make you pay to read their stories, and I think these people don't have the money, right? Another sign of what's really happening with the economy. All right, let's transition a little bit here, folks, to de-dollarization, the U.S. dollar, the BRICS nations. Now, an article today, BRICS to keep ditching the U.S. dollar. We heard the other day, no, we're going to keep the dollar. India said they're going to keep the dollar as their main transaction currency. On the heels of threats from the West, here in the United States, and geopolitical concerns brewing, the BRICS economic alliance appears to remain steadfast in its commitment to ditching the dollar. One day it's ditching it. The next day, India is going to say that they're keeping it. We just heard that, 1 or 2 days ago. We're going to keep the U.S. dollar as the reserve. A lot of this could just be a little bit of foolery to not raise the alarm or sound the alarm bell, so to speak. The importance of keeping the dollar as the world reserve currency after the current victory of the incoming administration, he threatened 100% tariffs on these BRICS nations here. So we'll see how that plays out too. I mean, I think that's going to be inflationary. The tariff thing, inflationary. I don't think it's going to bring jobs back because the cost of living is going to remain high. In my opinion, could I be wrong? Absolutely. Have we been wrong about very much over the few years I've been doing this channel? Not much. We've been, I'd say 90+% pretty right on the ball. Again, probably the only channel in entire YouTube land to tell you that the housing bubble wasn't going to go bust, because we already knew that the banks were going to be propped up no matter what, especially the big banks. Of course, they'll let some smaller and mid-sized banks fail, but overall, they're keeping the banks propped up, and that's the backbone of it, folks. The reason the housing market went crash in 2007, 8, 9 is because the banks were appearing to fail at the beginning, so they stopped loaning out money for the most part, and everybody got freaked out. Nobody wanted to buy a home because they didn't know what was going to happen. It was uncertainty. Now it's not really uncertain. The banks are going to be propped up. That is definitely certain, right? Unless we see the big black swan, or somebody doesn't hit the right button and the banks do fail. They don't get the liquidity injection, bailout money, whatever you want to call it. They don't get the injections in enough time to stay funded. And that could be, something else too. A hack The grid goes down. Something massive, World War III, which has been on the doorstep, according to many people, been on the doorstep for a long time. All these risks, folks, I'm staying cautious on it. What do you think about all this news? Congestion pricing, people getting their cars impounded now because they're tracking everybody's license plates for the $9 fee for the most vehicles. The Honda electric vehicle, Zuckerberg's $900,000 watch. The layoffs at Washington Post. Researching flying dinosaurs from, is it millions of years ago or is it just 100,000 years ago? See, that's how little I care. Maybe some of you know, is it millions of years ago? Either way, do you stay up at night worrying about if dinosaurs flew and where the veins were in their tails? This is ridiculous, folks. People are getting paid for this stuff. It's insane. It doesn't stop. Please make sure you subscribe. Thanks, everybody, for being here. As always, keep stacking. Big love. Bye for now. Peace.